Hello and welcome to the Morgan. I am your host, Faye. This will be the beginning of a series called Know Your Fash, where I will go over fairly well known crypto fascists, like the last video. This series will mainly be written by Chloe, the editor and co-writer. Today we will be going over Lauren Southern.
Men with younger wives even live longer. Women love strength and resources. Men value youth and fertility. These are age-old archetypes of warriors and mothers. And pairing the masculine with the feminine like this has secured our existence since the beginning of time. Obviously, it gets a bit more complicated than that, but the biggest thing you want to know as a woman is that you really do not want to be competing against 20-year-old girls for 30-year-old guys when you hit the age of 30, because you won't win, and it will just become harder and harder and harder for you to find a guy to settle down with, as all of the good men who want to settle down and get married do just that, but with younger women.
Number 1, a cult of tradition. Men marrying young women is great, and it's great because of old warrior archetypes, apparently. Also, gay people like me don't exist to her.
Statistically, every man a woman sleeps with past one adds to the increased chances that her marriage will later end in divorce. A woman with just one previous sexual partner is an equivalent divorce risk to a man with 19. Promiscuity has devastating impacts on women's ability to pair bond and form lasting, stable relationships that she needs for her happiness.
Yes, since apparently divorce is inherently negative and has nothing to do with somebody being dissatisfied in their marriage. Also, correlation isn't causation. Using the correlation equals causation logic that Southern is using would mean that the amount of films Nicolas Cage appears in causes people to drown by falling into pools. Number 2, a rejection of modernism.
My picture. I'm sure many of us growing up remember the phrase, white picket fence and a dog named Spot. It was always used as a derogatory term for a lifestyle deemed ordinary, dull, and conventional. But before this hip generation came about, for a very long time, that idea was not derogatory at all, but in fact, a dream held by many people. And for good reason. People had that dream because the traditions displayed in it were, quite frankly, the best way to historically have a fulfilling life.
It may have been a good time to be a cishet, white, middle to upper class man back then, but for anyone else it was hell. It was segregation. Women were pretty much slaves, or they were shunned. And gay people and trans people were imprisoned a lot. She also claims to be an individualist, but wants to return to conformity and a more oppressive and traditional time. Number 3, cult of action for action's sake. She doesn't exactly have many calls to action since her main target is young cishet or white women who she believes should become traditional housewives. So the closest thing she has to calls for action is telling young women to stay virgin and to have old men become their trad husbands. Number 4, disagreement is treason. She has a style that slightly resembles Jordan Peterson, where it is focused on the individual and how they can become what she views as better and more traditional. So she doesn't exactly talk about treason much, but she will call a liberal a socialist because she thinks socialism is Stalinism. Number 5, fear of difference. She believes in the great replacement myth and will put the re-upload in the description for if for some reason you want to watch it. I'm gonna take a page out of a well-known bread tuber called Sean's book. Sean. I'm gonna take a page out of this book. Chloe, my editor, put an elephant on the screen. Okay, now put a zebra next to it. People who believe in the great replacement myth pretty much say that the elephant was replaced. Neither were replaced, they're both just there now. Great replacement debunked. Number 6, appeal to the frustrated middle class. She talks about the great replacement and how the immigrants will take your jobs. So she is trying to make people focus on immigrants instead of the bourgeoisie, who are the ones who replace your job with really people who they don't have to pay as much because of sanctions and whatnot. Number 7, obsession with a plot. She talks about how conservatives are being censored and how the mainstream media is Marxist.
City, Cosmo magazine, mainstream media, Marxist propaganda truth.
This isn't unique. She's just another conservative who rants about the deep state.
Wikipedia is run by far-left activists. The mainstream media is run by far-left activists. The ADL literally labeled the OK hand symbol as hate speech.
Number 8, the enemy is both weak and strong. She doesn't really call her enemies weak. She heavily fearmongers about how Antifa is about to destroy the West and how that's bad and that sort of thing. Number 9, pacifism is trafficking with the enemy. She focuses more on the personal level, so this doesn't really apply. Number 10, content for the weak. Hatred of immigrants. Do I really have to say more? Number 11, everyone is educated to be a hero. She believes men should be masculine and manly and machismo, and that sort of thing. Number 12, machismo. She believes women should be housewives and should submit to their husbands or the men around them. Number 3, selective populism. She's a populist for confused, young, white, cishet women. 14, newspeak. Trigger warning for this part. Mention of rape and suicide. So, watch out.
Men are raped. Men are mistreated. Men are held to ridiculously high societal standards, just like women. Yet feminists continue to place this blanket judgment over all men that they are all privileged, and all women that they are all oppressed.
Feminists want to help solve these problems, which come from toxic masculinity. Except the rape part, we want to solve the high standards that society set. She is bending the definition, the broad definition of feminism. Also, most of the time, she thinks men should be stoic and masculine unless it doesn't suit her narrative. So, yeah, I think we can come to the conclusion that she is indeed a crypto fascist and probably even a Nazi. Anyways, thanks for listening. Have a nice day. Go follow Chloe and me on Instagram. It's all in the About section. Credits to Chloe for writing this. She also edited this. Credit to me for voiceovering it. Anyways, see ya.